You're listening to Ideal Practice, episode number 170. Oh my gosh, guys, this is a good one. I have got such a treat for you today. Not only are you going to get some freaking brilliant guidance on how to design and grow your most delightful private practice, but you're also going to get a behind-the-scenes look at the evolution of an entrepreneur with my guest, Joe Sanok. Now, you guys probably know him best as the host of the ever so popular Practice of the Practice podcast, but turns out he's also just a really big-hearted guy who has been through some pretty serious personal growth of his own. You're going to want to take notes on this one, my friends. So, stay tuned. Hi, I'm Wendy Pitts-Reeves, and with over 2 decades of experience in the private practice world, I've built my 6-figure business while learning a lot of lessons the hard way. This is the first podcast that shows you how to apply the principles of energy, alignment, and strategy to build a practice that is profit-centered, but people-forward. This is the Ideal Practice Podcast. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. This is Wendy Pitts-Reeves, your host. And as always, I am really excited about hanging out with you today. Today is kind of special though, because I have a real treat for you, and I cannot wait to share this with you. So Joe Sanok is a psychotherapist who launched Practice of the Practice back in 2012, first as a blog, and then later as a podcast, so that he could talk about all that he was learning about business, marketing, and running a private practice. In the years since then, he sold his very successful group practice. He has become an author, a keynote speaker, a TEDx speaker. Today, he is a business consultant and, of course, a podcaster. His show, Practice of the Practice, is the #1 podcast in our industry, and it's one of the top podcasts in the world. Joe is a writer who has been featured in multiple outlets and is the author of a book called Thursday is the New Friday. You should check that out. Joe has been named one of the top therapist resources for his podcast, his blogging, and his consultant services. And today, his program, the Practice Academy, is taking off and has so many great things to offer that I want you to hear about today for sure. Now, I do want to tell you something that although I did my southern best to slow him down, Joe talks fast, y'all. He talks fast. So there were so many juicy parts in this. I really want to encourage you every now and then to stop and rewind it a little bit and capture what he shares with you, because there's a lot here and you're getting this for free. Like, this is really, really good stuff, and I want you to enjoy it, okay? I want you to enjoy it, and I want you to get the most out of it. It's really good. All right? All right. So without further ado, let's get into the interview. All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Ideal Practice Podcast. You have already heard a little bit about my guest. I would like to say that you all know who he is, but I'm not going to assume that. Let me go ahead and bring him on. Joe, say hi to everybody.
Wendy, thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely. This is going to be a treat and a half. I reminded you that you and I met actually the first time at your first Killing It camp back in Estes Park, Colorado in 2019, which was a great event. And the first time you had done that, remember we were doing that in the middle of a blizzard?
Yeah. I remember the antelope going by. We'd have to walk down to like have our lunches and be like slipping and sliding. And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I came away from that thinking never wear heels to a conference in Colorado in the winter ever again.
Never.
It was pretty tricky. So Joe, I think everybody in the world knows who you are, but I'm not going to assume that. Tell everybody, my favorite question is always to start with where you are in the world and then who you serve and how you serve them.
Yeah, so I'm here in Traverse City, Michigan. I get to live here with my 2 wonderful daughters that are 14 and 11, and they are in the thick of tween and teen life. So I am taking them to taekwondo and jazz dance and play practice and friend overnights. Hosting after homecoming, I hosted some 14-year-old girls here. There's 4 of them. They were squealing.
Oh, bless your heart.
So our house is that house that's 2 blocks from the high school, and they always want to walk home after school. So that's a lot of my life outside of here.
Wow.
My main audience is therapists that have private practices. So we say we want to help you build a thriving private practice you absolutely love. So we want both sides of that. We want the thriving side, all of the operations, the marketing, setting it up well, that stuff we never learn in grad school. And then the other side, you don't have to sell yourself for this. Like you can actually love your practice. You can love your clients. You can focus in on your ideal client. You can make more money. You can have a beautiful office. You can show up and say, I can't believe I get to do this. And so we want both sides
Yes.
of that. And so we do that from the second that someone says in grad school, I think I want to start a practice, all the way through. We represent people when they sell their practices and level up
Mm.
into consulting and podcasting and everything in between.
I love that. So, in other words, you don't have to be miserable. You can actually do this and actually enjoy it,
You
right?
sure can. You
Yeah.
sure
What
can.
a,
We've helped thousands of people do it. And so like we get to see these macro patterns that we see
yeah,
that what it takes to be successful and we see the things that people just burn out on.
that's so true. And you've already said something that I thought I want to highlight this right off the bat. Help people design a practice that they can sell, which is
Hmm.
not a concept I ever thought about when I started my practice. You don't know my backstory, but I started a group practice in the early 90s and ran it for 25 years before I finally let it go, and sold it during the pandemic. But never in a million years did I ever have that concept. So that's a great place to start here. I wanted to talk about sort of your evolution as an entrepreneur because anybody who's coming into your show now sees who you are today, which is like pretty significant. Like you've got a lot going on, you've got a lot of success, you've got a lot of followers, you're doing a lot of great things in the world. But you're a therapist and you started in a completely different place. So I wanted to hear about when you first entered this world. Did you always know you were going to do a private practice at all? Was that from the beginning a plan?
Mm. You know, I started in residential treatment,
Oh,
working with runaway kids. I did that all through undergrad and grad school. So I'd work overnights, write my papers, overnight, and then sometimes, work Friday nights, take them roller skating, do things like that. So
yes.
that world of angry kids, I really enjoyed. I felt like I connected with them. It was this mental challenge of building trust, and then when you had that trust, being able to really break through. So it was very fulfilling. I think then when I started to get jobs at community mental health, there was a foster care supervisor. And as I moved up, I realized I was more and more disconnected from the actual client work I enjoyed. And
Mm,
so I realized if I want to make more money, which, to be able to survive as the sole income, earner, to have two small children and to say, I want to see what I can do. It was basically like, do I want to become the CEO or executive director of a nonprofit? And
yeah.
really, when I looked at that, I didn't like what I saw. And there's great people that do that.
Yep.
But it wasn't for me. So then it was okay, I want to improve things in my life financially. I don't want to work 50 hours a week. What can I do? So I started doing just some side gig work with a counseling practice. It seemed really hard because matching insurance and then the clients that took that insurance, I couldn't figure
Yes.
out how to make it work.
Uh,
So I then ended up doing a private pay practice where it literally was like you show up, you give me money, you go home, and I
what a
don't worry
great
about anything.
concept.
Yeah, yeah. And so really started that back in 2006 as just a
Mm,
side gig thing to pay off student loans. And I remember at the time
mm.
having this list of the next $1,000 that I earned, what will we do? Like buy a new mattress. And then it's like the next
Oh,
1,000, like renovate the closet. And
I
it just
love
was
it.
so just side income. And really, it was when someone I was supervising for his license, which was just part of my kind of side gig that I was doing, said, Hey, Joe, I want to join your practice. And I had never thought of
Oh,
group practice. I had never thought of expanding. I was still working full time at the community college at that point.
yep.
And so talked to my attorney, worked out an agreement, worked out what felt fair, had a really solid split for myself that then graduated as they had kind of more throughout the month. And then I had
Hmm.
another intern that said, Hey, I want to join your practice. And next thing you know, I have this single office suite with four of us, and I'm
Wow.
still working full time at the community college.
So you
And
did this completely by accident. You slid into
totally
a group
right.
practice.
It was more like somebody said, "Hey Joe, like, can I join you? I like what you're doing." I mean, I had the top ranking website in the area for
Ah,
counseling, even though it was my side gig. So I
yep.
knew that I was following business stuff. I knew that things were brewing. I was enjoying it. And I remember this day, I had just got a four office suite with a view of the water. So I finally upgraded, was like, okay, I'm gonna
Mm,
grow this. I'm gonna keep this amazing job at the college that had full pension. I mean, who has that anymore?
all the
The best,
benefits.
the best healthcare in the town. A really chill schedule. I spent 4 days a week on a sailboat in the summer doing like kind of orientation with these at-risk kids. So it was
I
an
love it.
amazing job. But I remember going at my lunch hour over to my counseling practice, and I walk in and it's designed how I want it. It
Mm,
overlooks Grand Traverse Bay. It's right downtown in this brick building, and it's
mm.
like amazing. And then I go back to my college job and I walk down the stairs to my basement office that has zero windows and shabby furniture in the student life department. And it couldn't have been farther from each
You
other.
know,
To
you're
just,
bringing back all kinds of flashback memories from
oh,
me, right?
yes, yes. We've all been there.
We've all
But
been
but it
there.
really clicked as I started to run the numbers. I was making more money in my quote side gig counseling practice than I
Mm,
was in my full-time job. So when
huh.
my second daughter was born, my boss at the college actually said to me, "Boy, Joe, when we adopted Quinn, I wish I had taken the full Family Medical Leave Act." And I was like, ding, ding, ding,
Ah,
ding. So I worked 20 hours a week for about 6 months, and that was enough to cover the health insurance, but really could step into private practice. And by the end of that, every month had been financially better for me than the month before. And I just
wow.
knew. And then I was off and running.
Off and running. I love that. And I was the family therapy director of a residential treatment center, working with dual diagnosis adolescents from around the country that had tons of experiential ropes courses. It was
Oh,
based on,
yes.
right? You remember ropes courses?
Oh, I did ropes courses and low ropes initiatives and experiential education, all of that. Yeah.
There you go.
Love that stuff.
Backpacking. I used to take juvenile
Hmm.
delinquents backpacking. Right. That's what I did. So
Yeah.
that's also what Gary Katz and I connected on because I love that
Yes.
stuff so much. And this is totally an aside, has nothing to do with what we need to talk about. But I remember being shocked the first time I found out not everybody liked working with teenagers because I loved the so-called roll your eyes teenagers. They were a hoot and a half.
Oh,
But
yes.
anyway, so you sort of fell into this backwards, but once you got there, you were like, oh yeah, this is mine. And then began to consciously grow it over a period of time, right? So one of the things I'm curious about in that phase of your development as an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
what were the things that, or was it just kind of like, yeah, I'm doing this, I'm fine? Or were there moments in there where you're like, I have no idea what I'm doing? Or where you sort of had to sort of stumble through a few things about how to manage your staff, how to manage the money, all of that? Like, was it easy all the way? Or were there some points along the way where you're like, I don't know if I should be doing this or not? Yeah.
Wendy, I still feel that way. I still feel like I don't know what I'm doing a lot of the time. And I think that's it. That I mean, just like our clients, where we say,
Mm,
go through the anxiety. Yeah, let it come up. Don't have judgment. Let it pass through you. It's there. But it's like same sort of thing. There are things that we need to learn, whether it's as an entrepreneur or as a
yeah.
business owner or even just as a human, that they come up and we say, okay, is this something that I can change, that I can work on, that I can learn and do different? Are there skills I need to build in myself to do this differently? So I
Hmm.
remember there was one time where I think the team had grown to about 10 clinicians. And I realized that they were cats running all over the place. They just were like everywhere. There was no organization. I mean, there
And
was
now
organization.
were these with W-2s or 1099s at that
So at
point?
that time they were 1099s. I would
And you were
highly
the and you
recommend
were running it.
W2s. I
You were
was running
running.
it.
Yeah.
Yep. They could come and go as they please. We had an admin who kind of made sure offices. It was working, and we didn't have any sort of team cohesion, and they were 1099s. So
Yeah.
I kind of had that mindset of, yeah, show up, do therapy, go home. But
Yeah.
also there was a lot of kind of things that were bumping into each other.
Yep.
And so I remember at the time I heard a podcast. It was Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income, and he interviewed Sally Hogshead, who wrote "How to Fascinate" or "How the World Sees
I
You."
have that back there.
Fascinate, yeah.
Yeah.
And so the fascination quiz, you go through it, and what I like about it is it shows how you come across to the world instead of all the other kind of Enneagram or Myers-Briggs. It's kind of how you see the world. It's when you answer this, how do you come across to other people? And I
Hmm.
remember there was a lady, Tara, who we'd be in these voluntary staff meetings because they're 1099s. And anytime there was something new, she would push back on it. And she was a kind, wonderful person. She, also taught yoga and had been my intern. And it was like, why is Tara pushing back so much? So we went through this whole process, and her personality type from that quiz was the conformer. And the idea for that was they really like tradition, they like
Mm.
history, and if something changes, they need to know why. They need to be
Yep.
sold on the idea. And so for me, that shifted where if I had something new, I would go to Tara before the meeting and just say, hey, like we're going to be adding going on local radio every single week. The way I'm picturing it would be that we all kind of rotate through. It helps all of our caseloads. What do you think? Oh, that
Yeah.
sounds great. This is in alignment with things we've already done before. And then it shifted where in those meetings, she became the biggest advocate. And so it was me learning
Ah.
about how do I better understand my staff and how they process things. And those kind of
Hmm.
things happened all the time through that phase.
I love what you were learning there was how to be a leader.
Yeah.
You were learning to lead. And so by understanding the differences of your staff and how to approach them, and you turned a challenger into an advocate, which is brilliant, brilliant. And a level of discernment that we do. And this is a topic I'm very interested in is how we develop our leadership skills as a practice owner, because that's such a big part of this process to me. We go into this line of work because we want to help everybody and it's all about service. But if you're not leading, you're not going to have a successful practice. And I actually don't think you're going to do your clients a whole lot of good either. I think that's important. So that's what I love about that. So how long you started that 2006, 2000, right? And then you started practice of the practice 2009,
12.
12.
2012. Yep. And then started the podcast January of 2013.
Yeah.
2012 was a year that I was in the hospital a lot because my daughter was having open heart surgery. So we're in and out of the hospital lots of times sitting around. And then
Oh,
I ended up having thyroid cancer right after that. So it was this year of
oh,
having major medical stuff, but also saying like, what do I want to do? And so really realizing that even though I didn't exit the community college for a number of years, there were things that were brewing where it was like, I need to build another stream of income. And that's not going to be through mental wellness counseling. It's going to be through something else. And so that's where
really?
I started the website and just started blogging about what I was learning in the counseling world. And then really started the podcast to have access to people that I should have to pay, but didn't want to pay. So my website wouldn't be working. And so I'd be like, I got to find a website designer that specializes in WordPress. I'd have them on the show. And then afterwards, I'd be like, can I just screen share? Like, I think I screwed up my website. Can you help me with this code? Would spend 10 minutes with them, like updating the website. And then it'd be like, all right, that would have cost me $200. Like, so literally it would be like, I don't know how to do Google ads. I'm going to bring on a Google ad person.
I
And then
love it.
afterwards just be like, so I'm not sure about this verification. What is this? And then they'd walk me through it.
Oh, what a hoot. Oh, y'all. Okay, you guys, listen to what he's saying here. First of all, really creative way of getting the kind of help you need, right? Just start a
Yeah.
podcast and interview them and they'll help you for free. I love that. But you just sort of zipped right over a really hard thing there. So I want to drop into that.
Yeah.
So 2006, 2012. So you have built this group practice up. It's running. You've got a fairly healthy roster of clinicians. You said that you had that your website was number one in your area. Mine was too, the practice that I ran, same thing. And so you guys were a force in your community. You're well known, but you were still doing the community college all the way through those 6 years. You were still doing both of those.
Yeah, yeah. So I think we were probably by 2012 when I was going through the cancer treatment and my daughter's heart surgery. I bet we were at like four clinicians probably. I'd have to look back to
Got
get the
it.
exact
Got
number.
it.
So it wasn't,
Okay.
I peaked with 13 clinicians in that four
Mm-hmm.
office suite, and then sold that to one of my clinicians in 2019. But yeah,
Okay.
so it
Okay.
was, it was one of those things where, and they were all probably 10 to 15 sessions a week. So they weren't full time in there, but
Yep.
it was more than paying the bills and it was pretty automated. Um,
What I'm struck by in all that is that that's a lot of stress to be
yeah.
handling the job and the practice. And then you had all that going on with your daughter and yourself in 1 year. That's the year from hell right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just did a interview with Gordon Brewer
Oh
specifically
yeah.
talking about how to handle when illness and hard times like that strike, how you keep your practice going and how you keep yourself afloat.
Mm.
What you did was turn around and start a whole nother business in the middle of all that.
Well, I think in the midst of it, now I don't think I have that same hustle as I, did,
Yeah.
was that, over 10 years,
Back
12,
then.
15. Yeah. Um,
You
I
and me
do think
both,
it was,
brother.
but I do think it was a good distraction for me. I mean, I remember
Hmm.
one time just sitting in, the hospital by myself and working on something for Pinterest, like some infographic or something. And like I just needed that distraction. I needed something
Yeah.
to do. I didn't want to just like watch YouTube. I didn't want to read a book. I just needed
Yes.
something that I could escape. And for me, it really worked during that time.
Hmm.
And I think for me, you had noted about becoming a leader earlier
Yeah.
on. I think
Yeah.
one of the things for practice owners to think through is like, why am I starting a practice? Why do I continue a practice? Like, what does that do to serve me? I personally, it really bugs me when people say, "Well, this business is my baby." Like to me, your child you would never kill. I would hope, you wouldn't just like get rid of it. As a universal thing, we don't usually like get rid of our kids. A business you may need to get rid of. You may need to kill it. You may need to amputate it. You may need to switch it into something else. And so there is this kind
That's
of
a good
weird
point.
feeling around our businesses where we're like we've put all this heart and soul in it, and it owes me something similar to a child owing us something for raising it. To
Hmm.
me, that's just dysfunctional. We need to say this is a tool that is serving my family. This is a tool that's serving my future. This is a tool that's serving my community. How do we have this be the sharpest tool for what I want? You may want a screwdriver. I may need a saw. So if I want it primarily to maximize income with the least amount of time put into it as a single dad with 80+% custody, if I were starting a practice, I would start one where I'm needed an hour a week. You may
Yeah.
say, I'm clinically fulfilled. I want to help raise the next generation of interns and have a teaching practice. Those are two very different practices for the owner and very different skill sets for the management. So if we don't start with what am I actually doing here, that doesn't then help us define what are the next steps. So if you're starting a teaching practice and I'm starting more of a passive income practice, I'm going to have much different steps than you're going to have. I'm going to be working on how do I take off hats aggressively from the very beginning. Whereas you're going to say, how do I understand the entire clinical scope of this place so that I can teach it start to finish? So
Mm.
even the way we manage would be completely different if we have a different mindset in what we want to get out of our practice.
That is so true. And that's a great way of looking at that. And you're right. They're completely different energies. It's a very, very different way to show up in the world. So I have a 7 step, I call them the 7 pillars of an ideal practice of all the different things that I believe people need to have in place for a successful practice. And the very first pillar in my framework is purpose,
Mm,
which is what you're saying. Why the heck am I doing this anyway? It is not easy to start a business at all. It is certainly, and it
right.
never gets any easier, really. And I always say that running a business is like psychotherapy on steroids because your stuff
Mhm.
is going to show up in your business whether you want it to or not, right?
Yeah.
So getting really clear about what you're doing and why, you're absolutely right. And that will change over time. What you want is going to change over time.
Uh-huh.
So your metaphor about the baby cracks me up a little bit. Yeah. You're going to get tired of that kid at one point and want them to move out of the house.
Right, right. I'm going to give that kid to someone else and hopefully get a good price for
I
it.
love you. You can go now.
Yeah.
That's very funny. I think James Wedmore talks about that. He says, "Nobody, don't call your business a baby because you want your baby to grow up. Trust me." You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So that's a little bit about what you were doing. You are also just hardwired this way. Clearly, like you are a serial entrepreneur. You've got more ideas than you can live with in one life, implement in one lifetime. I suspect. Yeah, true.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I've had
yeah.
to learn to rein that in of how do I, and I think surrounding myself with a team of people that have different skill sets. Jen
Hmm.
and Sam, who are my head of projects and people, and then also my COO. Those two are very grounded. They're very like, how are we going to give action to this? Which slows me down from just like, this is going to be fun to do. So I do need to put those ideas up and then see in 3 months, is that still brewing? In six
Yeah,
months, is that still brewing? And then also saying, does this compete with the KPIs we've already set for our business? And so every year we look at what do we want to do next year. When we look at next year, we're looking at our membership growth, we're looking at the
yep,
podcast growth, and continuing our operational growth. And so it's
yep.
like if we have things that don't directly tie into those, we need to make a good case as to why we're doing that. And so, for example, in 2025 in May, we started the group practice conference. And so that could have been a distraction. But then we saw member growth from it. We saw some of our biggest sponsors of the year came on from those connections. And so as we look to May of 2026 for the group practice conference, that is aligned because we saw that the consulting numbers went up. We saw the membership numbers went up. The podcast listeners went up. So it is tied in as a strategy to grow these things that we've said we want to grow.
So, guys, when he talks about KPIs, he means key performance indicators. These are certain statistics, certain numbers that you need to track for the overall health and growth of your business. Okay, it may not be familiar to some of you. I think what I want to highlight for a second here is you have done lots of things and you've tried lots of things, and I've watched you go off and do this, that, and the other. But there is part of this, it sounds like part of your learning has been how to hone and focus on what's really going to drive forward and how to discern when does this make sense for me personally and when does it not, when does it make sense for my business. And when you started this podcast way back in the dinosaur days of podcasting, I know that you were like the first to market in this. You were the first people ever to talk about the business side of running a practice, right? Which turned out to be quite fortuitous. And a lot of things have come from that. Lots of spin-offs from that along the way, but that has been kind of a core piece of it, a thread that's run through everything, right? So you said that you started that because you need to leave the college, you needed another source of income. So there was a strategic aspect of it, but clearly you were learning and you're a natural teacher too, right? Okay. So tell me about as the podcast grew, what did you have to learn there? What did you have to figure out there, and how did you figure? Where did you trip? What were the uh-ohs and oh-nos that happened there along the way?
Well, I think I'm a big fan of trying things to see if it's going to work and not building the entire thing right away.
Yeah.
So, following your customer journey to me is really important. So whether it's your clients or for us, our listeners, there were times that I tried to do things faster than what I should. And so tried to launch conferences that we had to refund. Even just last year, we did a huge thing around the Seven Figure Practice Club. So did probably 20 interviews with seven figure practice owners in late, I think that was 2023. And then I think we launched it in January of 24, the Seven Figure Practice Club. It was this like $10,000 a person mastermind that was supposed to really like help people dig in. I thought, yeah, if we get, 6 or 7 people, like that'll be worth it. We had 2 people pay, and that's not a mastermind. We tried really hard. We pushed it. And then we refunded, and we learned that Stripe, when you refund, they keep the 3% that they take, whereas PayPal doesn't. So we paid, 3% of $20,000 in learning fees.
Yes, yes.
So I think that a lot of it is spaghetti at the wall. And then once it gets going, it's how do we keep these plates spinning? So we always have to keep the plates spinning that are working until we say, we're no longer going to do that anymore. So for us, that's been our membership community. That's kind of the entry level. It's $195, the cost of one counseling session per month. And people get a whole bunch of support there. And we have 12 live meetings a month and e-courses. And then it's like, well, for someone that needs more than that, what's next for them? Well, we've got consulting. And so, there's people that are on the lower level of consulting on our team that are like $595 a month all the way through, $2,000 a month. What about people that want to move faster than that? Well, we've got the Done For You podcasting. So really saying, okay, is there an upsell or a downsell here? Which to me also makes sense in the counseling practice. Except we say, what about the people that aren't ready for counseling yet? What are the products or services that you can have before they're even ready? So say you're a couples counselor and you help couples that are struggling with infidelity. Okay, well, let's work backward. What would this couple have needed 2 years ago? What would they have needed right after they got married? What would they have needed when they had their first child? Like, let's work backward from there and say, well, maybe there's an e-course or a webinar that we could test out. Maybe you could even just go on some podcasts and talk about it to see if you even enjoy it. So let's test that out. And then what about that couple that has recovered from the infidelity? Like, do they need a retreat? Do they need an e-course? Do they need some sort of monthly check-in or like a script for date night to not get back into all the mud? What about the couples that don't come back together, that separate and divorce? Like, what products can we offer them after infidelity breaks apart that relationship? And so there's all these opportunities to think beyond just what your core service is. It can be all these other things that are in line with people that aren't ready for therapy or are already done with therapy.
That's so good, Joe. That is so good. And this is, I relate to you. You are a very creative problem solver. You
Thank
have,
you.
like, you really are. And I love that about you. I imagine it drives people around you a little crazy sometime because you can see 15 different ways to do things. Am I right about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But y'all listeners, guys, tune into what he just said because so many of us, all we can think of is the client who's right in front of us and how to serve them right now. And when they're out the door, they're out the door. And oh gosh, I hope that helped. Just go back, y'all. Go back and listen to the last 2 minutes of what Joe said. Listen to it slowly and write down what he just said because he just gave you about 10 different ways to serve the very same client. Okay. This is a very creative way and a perfectly reasonable way to expand your practice, serve people on a deeper level, have a bigger impact on your community, make more money, and stand out among the crowd because everybody else is doing 1 hour a week with the same client. Da, 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 da. Okay. So I love that, Joe. That is also kind of how my brain works, which is also why I know this because I drive other people crazy for the same thing. Have you ever done the Colbys? Are you familiar with the Colby? It's a work
I did it a long time ago. I don't remember my results.
it's a work styles inventory, like how
Yeah.
you like to work, and it measures four things. And the third thing in there is called the Quick Start, and
Mm.
it's basically your level of tolerance for risk. Right. And most entrepreneurs, and it's a 10-point scale. Most entrepreneurs tend to be very high quick starts. I am technically a 7. I sometimes think I'm probably more of an 8. I bet you're a 9 or a 10 quick start. Here's an idea. Let's do it. Let's do it. I don't know how we're going to do it. Let's just do it. We'll figure it out, which is great in so many ways because if you don't have that, you're never going to change, you're never going to grow, and nothing's ever going to happen. But if you do it too much, too often, you don't have those grounding influences around you, you'll also go off half cocked all the time and spend a lot of money making mistakes. Speaking
Yeah.
from experience. Okay.
Yeah, well, and I think that really points to the need for like a few different things. I think we need
Yeah.
boundaries around how much time we're just going to work. So if I just spent my time all in my idea and didn't say, okay, what are the core parts of what I'm doing here? So I'm doing consulting. We're doing 5 podcasts a week, and I'm helping run the Practice Academy. So that fills up most of the time that I've set aside to work on the business. So then idea generation needs to take the back seat from the plates we have spinning. We can't be throwing spaghetti at the wall all day.
Yep.
So I think having those boundaries, but then also having a process for validating ideas. So we do what we call the 3P process. So it's a pretty simple process. We did this when we were first looking at launching Podcast Launch School. So I had this idea of we have all these therapists that we were serving. They're saying, "Hey, I want to start a podcast," and I thought, well, let's build a course for them and let's
Yeah.
sell them a course for $500 to $1,000, and
Yeah.
if we sell to 5 or 10 of them, that could be a chunk of change. But I'm like, no, we're going to go through the 3P process. So first, what you do is you reach out to 10 to 20 of your ideal clients. And so if you're launching a course on depression, you could do this with your own clients. Let them know, hey, I'm doing this. Obviously, look at your own ethics in your state just to make sure. But to say, I want to make more resources for you, the ideal client, around this. It could be that you're leveling up beyond your clinical work into something on podcasting. So
Right.
for me, it was I'm planning to do something around podcasting for therapists. And will you jump on a 15-minute call with me? This isn't a sales call, just to hear your thoughts on this.
Yep.
So you get, 10 to 20 people that do a call, and then you're taking notes in a Google document the whole time. And you let them know I'm going to be clicking away. The first question, the first P is pain. So we want them to describe the pain of being a therapist podcaster. Tell me everything that is worrying you about starting a
Yeah.
podcast. Tell me everything. And you're capturing that because then you want to get in the head of your ideal purchaser. Like, what's it like to try to think about a podcast? Then we reflect that back and do the second P, which is the product. If you had a product that totally supported you in this, like, what would that look like if you dreamed big? And so the folks that I was talking to, these were all my highest end consulting clients. They'd all spent at least probably 20 grand or so with us over the course of their time.
Yep.
And so they said, honestly, Joe, I'm too busy to start my own podcast. I'm too busy to take some course I'm not going to finish. You know how to do this, and I wish you would just start a done for you thing. I just want to hire your team to do it for me where I can show up and I can interview and just be done. And I'm like, okay, that's not at all what I was thinking. I was
Really,
thinking
for
like a
real.
course. So
Yeah.
then the last P is price. So how much would you pay for me to have my team do this for you?
Yeah.
across the board, people said, probably 18 to $25,000. Uh, that wasn't on my radar at all. And
Wow.
then the last question I didn't ask for that example, but that we now ask is if we doubled that price, what would absolutely have to be included in there to make it a no-brainer? Because then you know what they really care about. Like, oh, if I got 3 consulting calls with you, oh, if I got this, then you can pepper those in as maybe like a VIP level thing. So
Love it.
then you email those people and say, hey, you were one of 20 people that I interviewed. Here's the big themes that I saw. Because of this, we're launching a done for you podcast package. You can put your 50% down here for $10,000. We're only taking 6 of you. So make sure you jump on it.
Hmm.
Literally within one day, we had 4 people drop 10 grand to do that.
Wow.
I went
Because you had
from
done that
thinking,
careful process of listening to
yeah,
them and understanding what they needed.
yeah.
Hmm.
But of all the products that have that story, there's probably 10 products that got killed. And because
Ah,
you're looking at, you send an email to your ideal client, if no one signs up to even talk to you, you've got a problem with engagement. So we need to work on engagement before we launch anything. If people sign up to talk to you, they share, and you're like, whoa, I don't want to create a $7 download. It's like you can then kill the project and say, I'm misaligned. I've got a bunch of
yep.
cheapskates in my group. I need to figure out how do I attract people that can actually afford my services.
Yeah.
Say we get through that phase, and then we send this email and we say, here's all the stuff you just told me what you want within the price. It's exactly what these people said, and then they don't buy. Then you have a misalignment in your copy and the way you've talked about it. You can say, hey, I literally just told you that what you want I'm making, and you said you didn't sign up. So I'm really confused. Help me understand that.
Right. You have a marketing issue.
Then you
Yeah.
have you have money in hand.
Yeah.
Now you can go hire. So then I went to the community college that I used to work at. They have an audio tech program. I met with a bunch of kids that needed or students that needed internships. Usually they were unpaid, and I worked with them to say, "Hey, we'll pay $15 an hour, and it'll count for you to actually get credits for your class." Like, so
Hmm.
next thing you know, we have 6 audio tech engineers that are ready to jump into doing all the audio engineering for 4 new podcasts. So
To
then at every
design this
stage,
product that
yeah,
you
so
just sold.
every stage you're
Yeah.
trying to validate, like, should I kill this thing? Like, should I just like,
Yeah.
nope, we shouldn't move through this.
It's very methodical, very well thought through every step. I love that. So you're exploring it, but you're not going off half cocked. Like
Right.
there's a method to this. That's great.
Well, I think that reins in my creative quick
Mm-hmm.
start nature
Mm-hmm.
because I may think it's a great idea, but my audience might not be there.
Yep. 100%. And you discover new things that you didn't even know were there that then you can totally go to market with. It's
Yeah.
great. I love that. I love that. And I agree. The customer journey is every single step of the customer journey, which is what you were laying out a minute ago. What I think you said there that was new that people don't often think about is what they needed before they ever show up, and on down the line. But that's a super important point. And this whole testing of an idea, don't be afraid to try it, but do your homework, do your due diligence, sound it out in a certain way. I love that. That's also where Mastermind is so handy, right?
Mhm.
Where you can bounce these ideas off of people. And you've mentioned several programs that you've got. I know the Practice Academy is what you've got going on. Do you want to talk about that just a little bit? Kind
Yeah.
of because I think that's as just as I'm listening to you, I'm like, and no wonder people want to come and work with you. Like this is great.
Well,
Yeah.
thank
So
you.
yeah.
Yeah, the Practice Academy is our membership community for therapists at every stage of practice. And so we have 3 tracks. The first track is sustainable solo practice. So that's for people from the moment they say, I'm going to start a practice to I'm ready to hire my first person. Track 1 is for them. Then when they level up to track 2, there's no cost to level up. It's one price, just like Netflix, where you unlock the next level when you're ready. So group practice launch is track 2. So that over a 6-month period of time walks you through exactly how to start your group practice, have your first hire your admin, switch things over from kind of me to we, all the things that go into that. And then track 3 is sustainable group practice. And so that's all for group practice owners, whether they have one person all the way up to, I think we have an 8-figure practice that's in there.
Mm,
So really having a few different things that we've seen work over the years. So access to over 30 e-courses in each track, talking
wow.
about marketing, private pay, insurance, how do you network, how do you use AI in your practice. I'm recording those videos usually every other month at this point. I go into the studio for like 4 hours and just knock them out.
Mm.
We also, for each of the tracks, have a live meeting every week. So on Tuesdays, that's our group practice one. On Wednesdays, that's more of our solo general practice one. And on Thursdays, we have our launching a group practice one. And so you get 12 a month. When you level up, you get access to that whole community as well as the community that you were in before. And then we have access to all of our consultants. Our consultants are active in there. There's discussion boards. We use a platform that's called Circle. It's similar to Facebook in regards to discussions, similar to Teachable in regards to courses, and then similar to Zoom in regards to having the live feed all within it. So it's nice because you don't get distracted by what your aunt
Yep.
just posted on Facebook.
Yep.
And so what we're seeing is that there's this one lady, Brianna, that we have a testimonial from her on the webpage, but she's super active in our community. About a year ago, she found out that the practice she was working at as a 1099, the IRS had came for because they had been misclassifying people. The entire
Oh,
business,
shoot.
the backed taxes, the business went
Oh,
bankrupt.
no. Oh,
So
dear.
she went from having what she thought was a secure job to nothing within just a couple weeks. And she's a play therapist. She's needed.
Mm.
And so she joined our program. We helped her get everything set up in 2 weeks, where this was probably September of last year. And then over the next 4 months, she was building her operations. She was able to transfer some of those clients in. She lost some of those clients in that process, but to really do it well. Then in January, she joined Group Practice Launch to learn how to launch the group practice because she was growing. Our rule is when you're at 60% full, that's
Yeah.
when you need to start hiring because it's going to take a while to hire and you don't want to be burned out at 100%. So we
Mm.
walk you through that whole process. There's a whole course that gives you week by week trainings and downloads. She then now I think has 4 people working for her and is looking
Wow.
at how do I continue to grow? And she did all that in a year. And so it's really common for us to see that kind of the level people want to be at in their practice, they achieve through being around a community and having access to the right information in the practice academy.
And I'm guessing that they find out that they want more than they knew that they wanted. They didn't even
Yeah,
know they wanted this stuff until they get in there like, oh, I didn't even know that was possible. You're right. Maybe I do want that after all, which is about wanting more, allowing yourself to want more, which is something that's also very important to me because I think we are taught not to want more. Like just be
100%.
happy with what you're doing, right? Don't, there's so much mindset issues that go in there, especially in my experience with my women clients who
Mhm.
always feel like they just have to be satisfied with what they've got and don't ever ask for more. I can get on a
Oh,
soapbox about that. I love, Joe, that you're exposing people to those ideas and then showing them the way, and then they step into it like, who knew I could do this? But look at me,
yeah.
which is a
Well, I
reflection
just
of,
gotta say, I do
yeah,
have to say, there's one question that I address in the laser coaching sessions probably once a month, and I feel like it's so great to see the transformation with people. The
yeah,
typical owner is coming in, maybe they're more busy than they want, they're on some bad insurances that they need to leave, and they want to make more money, and they feel like they've kind of topped out.
yep,
And I will always say like, what's the rate you're charging for private pay? And they may say like 135, 150. And my rule is always go up by at least $25, if not $50 per session. Don't go up by five, don't go up by 10.
yep,
We want to have that stomach flip. And I literally will say, did your stomach just flip when I said to go to 200 a session? And
yeah,
almost always they'll be like, yeah. And if they say no, I'm like, then we need to go to 225. Like, I want their stomach to flip and be like, I am not worth it. Bring out all that
love it.
stuff from our childhood. Um, and so then it's like, okay, if the next 5 people say no to this, you can go back to your cheapskate rate. But like almost every time they get people that say, sure, I'll pay 225, I'll pay 200.
Yes,
That's fine. And then they
yes,
realize, oh my gosh, I've been playing too small. And there's almost always now 1 or 2 people that are like, I had that same conversation with Joe 3 months ago. I was 125, now I'm at 250. Um,
yes,
and then we talk about how do you do that? So, you roll it out to new clients first. Then, usually each year in October, November, you realign and say, hey, I know you're signing up for insurance now. You're putting money into your flexible spending or HSA. I wanted to let you know that my rates are going to be this. The current rates are this. Maybe you don't pull someone all the way up to the new rate, but you're moving them up by at least
mm-hmm,
25 to $50.
mm-hmm,
Here's my current rate. It's 225. You're at 125. We're going to bounce up to 175.
mm-hmm,
And so you're inching closer, hopefully.
yep,
And then we walk through exactly how to do that. And they see other people that have done it too that say, hey, my stomach flipped 2 months ago. And when Joe said that to me, but like it's going to be fine. And that power of the peer community, in addition to the consultants, to
Yes.
me, is why we see such success in there.
Yeah, this is the mastermind that he's talking about. So the blend, the power of being in the room with other people who are also growing like you, it really is. In fact, I'm meeting with my own mastermind this afternoon. This is we meet. I'm in a mastermind I've been in for years. We meet once a quarter for 2 days, and we start that this afternoon. There's nothing like it when you find the right place. It is really really powerful, and how often do we see people do that? You do, I love the stomach flip and you raise their, and oh my gosh, I didn't lose a single person. And my client, I have wait a long time ago when I first started doing this kind of thing myself, I would have clients who would say, well, I wondered when you were going to do that. It's about time because they knew I was undercharging, right? Which is embarrassing in a whole nother way,
Yeah.
but that's really great. And you are also, I really want to emphasize, I think what you are teaching is what you have experienced. So let me ask you, have you ever doubted when you either put something out there, like you just rattled off all these different ways that people can work with you at different price points, and it's easy now. Has it always been easy? Or back in 2012, 2015, 2018, when you first started offering $500 a month, $2,000, $10,000 programs, how was that for you personally?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's still always that mental block. It's like my consulting hourly right now is 1,500 an hour. And it's like if I were to jump to 2 grand, that would feel like, why would anyone do that? But then it's like the person that can pay 1,500 probably can also pay 2 grand. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
why am I, well, I still have that stuff. And
Yeah.
so, but it also, I think, raises the bar for you that if you're going to charge 225 for a session or 1,500 for consulting, I want my consulting clients to say that was a no-brainer. Oh my gosh,
Yes.
my group practice grew at this level. My podcast grew at this level. Joe introduced me to his book agent, which for HarperCollins, which never would have happened without just knowing the right people. Or he got a guest on my show as just an introduction, or like just figuring out what that person needs and genuinely
Yeah.
saying, we're just here to serve. Like even just recently,
Yes.
we had a consulting client that was working with one of our consultants and they were a mismatch. And there was a number of things that that consultant probably could grow on, that person didn't speak up, whatever.
Yep.
Like, so we always
Yep.
want to treat people like we'd want to be treated. So even though that consultant's rate is like half of mine, like I
Mm-hmm.
said to the team, just let her transfer to work with me. I want her to have a great experience. She can pay what she was paying for that other consultant,
Mm.
but I just want them to have a great experience. And
Yeah.
so if you go back to how do we over deliver? You know, for
Yep.
us, I'll give away a free consulting session to someone that they know is a higher rate if they had a bad experience. It's like, no,
Yeah.
I just want you to like be successful and, you know, be a rock star in the mental health world.
Which it speaks to the ethics side of this,
Yeah.
right? Right. So for people in the mental health world who always feel icky for VIP level services or premium level services or asking for money at all, like at all,
Mhm.
money is such a big thing. When you are super crystal clear about the value that you bring to the table, which you are, and when you know that you're driving the core underneath it all is always about service. Like I'm going to make sure you're taking care of one way or the other. We're going to do right here.
Yeah.
And that's going to look different ways at different times. But doing right doesn't mean I'm not going to make any money. Right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
both. That's great, Joe. I love that. I love that. Like you're saying some things that my audience is, there will be people in my audience who are like, about time. Yeah, you got it. And there will be other people who are like, oh, I don't know about that. Right. And I like to poke that. I poke that a lot.
I love that about you, Wendy.
Well, I feel really strongly about it. I'm a social worker and I have been in this field for 100 years. And it took me a very long time to stop thinking like a traditional social worker. And I really kind of want to change the whole industry. Like, I want you to be able to, you can make good money, do good work, and enjoy it along the way. And I think we're not going to do that as long as we're playing small. And we need examples like you to show us what's possible. And I love that. Money is a therapeutic issue, like everything else is. So, so I always want people to see like there is an ethical aspect of this that is every bit in alignment with who we are as clinicians. So I love that. Well, okay. So I tell you what would you say? Let me ask you this. You have come a long way from the guy with, I used to listen to you when you were talking about your kids being little. I cannot believe you got a teenager now. That's kind of like, how does that
I
happen?
know. Yeah, tell me about it. You're already talking about colleges. It's like, wow.
It happens
She
really
had a
fast.
she had a moment like last night. This is really funny. She's like, it's 2025. She's like, 2020 just feels like yesterday. How did that happen? It's like, I'm like, get ready. Because it's like, I still feel like I'm 22 sometimes. Where it's like, it only speeds up, honey.
Oh, it cracks me up. I always am like, how are they all changing so much? And I'm exactly the same. I don't understand how that happens. You know,
Yeah.
it is a little bit people, kids that I worked with in my practice are now like running things in my community. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man.
it's disorienting. That's very funny. Um, I'm really interested, Joe, in if you think back to who you were back then, who you were when all this started and where you thought you were going to do, where you thought your career was going to go when you decided to become a therapist at all, like the way you saw your life going and who you are today.
Mhm.
What would you say, what have been the biggest changes for you personally that you've had to sort of lean into, step into, find your way into, that, that you feel really good about today? Like who have you had to become along the way to do
Yeah.
what you're doing today?
I mean, I think so. I was raised by a clinical psychologist and a school nurse practitioner. Both are firstborns. I'm firstborn. I'm the oldest of 15 cousins on one side, the oldest of three on the other. So all the things that you think come with that come with that.
Yeah.
I had star charts from the earliest memories to go to bed, to do dishes, to get an allowance. Like my parents were very structured. I
Mm.
knew the expectations and what I took from that, and they would be mortified that this is one of the things, is that achievement equals love. They were also a family that
Mm.
hugged, that were emotionally intelligent in a lot of ways. And to me, achievement, especially for my father, because he was raised on like a farmland, Southeast Michigan, and then became a PhD psychologist. He jumped classes from my grandpa who worked at
Wow.
GM and like, worked on the factory line. So I
Yep.
think he didn't know what upper middle class was. Like he always probably felt out of place. And I have a lot of empathy around like how hard that must have felt for him. So a
Hmm.
lot of the message I got was like, look right. Like I had a ponytail in high school at like a Catholic school and he hated it. And I rebelled against that. But it was like that whole achievement equaling love is still something that I work on with my therapist. So I think early on, a lot of the things I did in my career, even when I was a full-time employee, was above and beyond. It was, sure, I'm getting paid for this, but can I do public speaking places? How am I not just good at my job, but great and stand out where the
Mm.
supervisor's like, thank God we have Joe working here, which isn't in itself bad
Right.
unless I internalize that as my worth coming from what I do. And so for me, deconstructing and untangling that and saying, I get to do amazing work. And if the practice academy stays at around 200 people in the membership, it doesn't get to the 1,000 that we want to hit by the end of 2026. That's not an assault on my ego. That's not an assault on my work. That's not an assault on the impact. It's just something hasn't lined up. And
Yeah.
so I think for me, learning that the outcomes I hope for, the KPIs we hope to hit, or the potential that I see within what I'm doing in my work, for me to find grounding and just humanity outside of the work I do, I think
Yeah.
it's been the deeper work that I've really worked on.
Oh, that's beautiful. I love that. Um, the love you're getting right now is a house full of 14-year-old girls on a
Yeah. Oh
sleepover,
man.
right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I remember you mentioning at that Killing It camp in Estes Park that you were a 3 on the Enneagram,
I am.
which totally aligns with that story. And I get that so much. One of my best friends is a 3 who's
Mhm.
very, very, very similar story, very similar. So learning like not to identify with your work. My work is
Mhm.
my work. It is not who I am necessarily.
Mhm.
It's a reflection and how it goes does not, I don't have to like what you make that mean. The meaning you
Mhm.
attach to that is really important. I
Mhm.
love that that you're working on that. You've been able to do that. That's huge. I totally get that.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing that with us because, it's different with different people, right?
Mhm.
Um, I'm a 9. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. With a very,
People
very,
pleaser.
very, very strong one wing I
Uh-huh.
have a friend of mine makes fun of me. So I have a little bitty 8-wing nub over here.
Mm.
And y'all, for those
See,
of
I have the wing. I have the wing four, so I've got that creative kind of emo side that
yep,
comes in too.
yep, yep, unicorn, deep, 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 deep. Yeah,
Mm.
I totally see that in you. I have to work at the people pleasing, like not like being more assertive and loud. I'm a lot better than I used to be. I've come a long way, but I'm constantly watching that. And
Mhm.
that goes into the whole pricing and setting boundaries in your practice, like which a lot of people struggle with. So I get all that. But this is a whole nother aspect, which is why I want to sort of lean into this a little bit. Y'all running your business and the growth that you go through as a person, as you evolve as a business owner, you also evolve as a human being. And what Joe just shared is a really gorgeous way of looking at how your stuff shows up in your work,
Mhm.
vice versa. And so that's great, Joe. Thank you for that. I love that. I always felt
Yeah, I
sorry for
think.
my kids grew up with a therapist mom and a psych nurse dad. They were doomed. That's, you know what can I
Yeah,
say?
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think for me, it was really like the breaking, like during my divorce, helped
Mm,
me just break a lot open. I mean, we
mm,
were in a camper for most of the end of 2020 and 2021, living in national parks, road schooling the kids, like kind of what
mm.
everyone was like. Oh, I wish I could do that. And I was podcasting from the road. And
Wow.
then in the middle of that, I mean, I say this publicly because she said it publicly. She had an affair, and I
Mm,
knew we were breaking up, but she didn't have a place to live. We're on the road, so like I'm literally in the same
wow.
bed as this woman for 2 months as we're uncoupling. And so
Wow.
every morning there would be this moment I would wake up and I would be like, forget my reality. And then it would hit me. And just to stay grounded during that, I had to meditate. I had to journal. I had to go for a 3 mile walk. I had to plank. I had to do things physically and things spiritually and emotionally
Yeah.
that literally just got me to the point that I could just function for my kids and function for my business. And
Yeah.
I think that that was such a good thing because, being raised, Catholic and going to Catholic school and having a lot of social influences that were around just what divorce is. On both
Yeah.
sides of the family, the only people that got divorced were ones that had really messed up situations. It wasn't the it's good enough, we should get divorced kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that breaking open in, what was that spring of 2021, to me really allowed myself to just get to that space of vulnerability and to be
Mm,
able to say, like, there's so much more that I want to experience than just
mm.
making money and like having achievement, and that makes its way into my work now. We did a whole
Yeah.
series on how I got through it and interviewed all these people around, like, how did you get through really tough
Yeah.
things? I've
Yeah.
explored all sorts of topics that maybe aren't the traditional therapy
Yep.
business topics, but I care about them as a human. And so
I love that.
I think it's that new formation of myself that impacts my business as well.
Yes, very much so. Man, you have been through it. You have grown a lot. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm.
And we do that. I've just been through 5 years worth of elder care challenges,
Mm.
which has been extremely difficult. And I have talked about it off and on as well on the podcast. Um, how you, how you show up, who you are is,
Yeah.
that's what it's all about. Yeah.
Mm.
And 14-year-olds and 11-year-olds. That's
Yeah.
gorgeous. Yeah. My kids are in their 30s. I have grandkids that age at this point. Right.
All right.
And it's fun in a whole new way. It's so much
Oh,
more
I'm
fun.
sure. That's what I hear.
So much more fun. Well, Joe, thank you for this. This has been great having you today. I really, really appreciate this conversation. There's lots and lots and lots and lots of juicy bits in here, um, personally and professionally. And I'm just very grateful for your time. Tell everybody how can they can, and the Practice Academy sounds like a perfect evolution of all of that that's coming into this one center place. I love that. Tell people how they can learn more about that.
Yeah, so I'll tell you something free, something cheap, and something expensive. So depending on your phase, free, we've got the Practice of the Practice podcast, over 1,200 podcast episodes, 5 days a week. I love doing it. I just get to talk to really interesting people and follow my curiosity. So tons of free resources on the website that you can access for whatever phase of practice you're in. The cheap would be the Practice Academy. At the time of this recording, it's $195 per month. You get full access to that entire community. That's over at practiceofthepractice.com/membership. You can read about it. You can schedule a tour. Sarah, our head of community, will walk you through it, answer your questions. She's a former teacher, and she just has that heart of like, hey, I just want to help you. And
Mm,
if it's a fit, great. And if it's not a fit, that's cool too. We have enough people coming in that it's just, if it's a fit, join us. The next level up would be consulting with our team. I'll have an individual 30-minute session where we talk about where you're at now, where you hope to be in the next 6 to 9 months. Again, I do 5 to 10 of these pre-consult calls a week, so we don't have to squeeze you into anything. We literally just want to see if it's a fit. So that's over at practiceofthepractice.com/apply. And if you're confused as to where to go, I would just go to practiceofthepractice.com/apply. We can just chat about it, spend 30 minutes talking about what might be a good fit, and we'll go from there.
I love that. Y'all, they're not interested in convincing you to do anything. They're interested in seeing what you need and how they can serve you. So don't be afraid to check that out. Okay. And we will have all that in the show notes below, of course. And if you can just tell from this conversation today how much you're going to get from that. So I really, really, really encourage you to check it out. All right, Joe, this is great. Thank you so much for taking all this time. Can I ask you one of the things I like to do? I like to end every episode by asking folks, is there anything that I have not asked you, anything we haven't covered, anything I've forgotten that you feel called to share that would make this conversation complete?
I mean, Wendy, we're 2 podcasters. We could just keep this going forever. So I don't think so. I mean, I think that for this episode, I would hope that people see in themselves that they have worth, no matter how their business is doing. To me, we get to see, the energy of the universe has chosen you, Wendy, to just look out at the world. And through my eyes, it's chosen to look out the world through Joe's perspective. You get a front row seat in an amazing just experience. And so I think that just realizing just how magnificent this is and that we get to do this in this period of time, in this form of our bodies, for good and for bad, and you get to be you. Like, that's freaking awesome.
It is. It is. You get to be you, and you get to be you with your clients in the way that is best for you. So that's great. Thank you, Joe. That's awesome. All right, everybody. I just realized how many times I've said awesome today, and I apologize for that. Thank you all for being here. I hope you have enjoyed this anywhere near half as much as I have. This is a real treat, and I hope it serves you. I really, really encourage you to go back and listen to it again slowly and take notes, because you need to. There's a lot here I want you to capture. All right, guys, have a great week. Thank you so much for coming, and I will see you again next week right here on the Ideal Practice Podcast. Bye now. Hey, y'all. If this program has become important to you, if Ideal Practice matters, it would mean so much to me if you'd be willing to take just a minute to do 1 or 2 of the following things. First of all, would you follow or subscribe to the show here at Ideal Practice? Following me helps you because you'll never miss an episode, but it helps me as well for all kinds of reasons. To do that, all you have to do is go to the show page for Ideal Practice on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. There, just click on the plus sign that you'll usually find in the top right-hand corner, or click on the word follow that you're going to find somewhere there on that page. Of all the things, this really is the most important thing you can do for the podcast itself. While you're there, it would be extra special if you would be willing to give me a 5-star rating, and even better than that, a review with your own words. Your words matter. And when you write what you feel, what you think, you uplift and encourage others. And I love that. If you want to go a step further than that, take your favorite episode or 2, one of the ones that has meant a lot to you, and share it with a friend. Could you do 1 or 2 of those things for me? I promise I will love you forever. You guys matter to me, and I value your support more than I can possibly say. Thank you, sweet friend, for anything you can do to help me out and support the show. I'll see you again soon.